Alright, welcome to the Nutritional Final Review. If you want to go ahead and print this out and follow along, we'll just go right through this one. Alright, in what way was ancient Chinese medical culture different from traditional American medical practice? This one I intended to give you, I don't know that it made it into the video, but it's just kind of an illustration that I was going to use, and the idea is that ancient Chinese medical culture, the only time that they were, or the time that they were getting paid was when you were healthy. And so if you were sick, then your doctor was not getting paid. And so it was kind of the reverse of what we have now, whereas now your doctor is not getting paid as long as you're healthy, they're only getting paid if you're sick. And so the Chinese culture had it set up in such a way that it was to the doctor's best interest to keep you from getting sick and to keep you healthy during your good years and try to avoid sickness at all costs, whereas today's medical culture is much more focused on just dealing with disease when it comes. Chinese culture was much more focused on preventing disease, and it all had to do with the financial structure. That they got paid as long as they kept you healthy, whereas here they only get paid when you're sick. Okay. Number 2, list the 4 biomarker tests that can be conducted at home. All right. Okay. So we went through a few of those. One was pinching the skin on the back of the hand. Right? The other one was the ruler drop. We had the standing on one leg test. And then the reading test, whenever the distance that your eyes would get blurry while looking at text, so you could move it in and out, and at the point it got blurry is where you would mark it from. So those were the 4 tests: pinching the skin on the back of the hand, ruler drop, standing on one leg, and reading text until it gets blurry. All right. Number 3, explain the connection between overall mortality in women and their BMI. So basically what I'm wanting here, I'll give you the numbers, was that mortality in women with a BMI of 18 or lower was lowest. Right? That was the lowest number of the lowest rates of mortality were in women with a BMI of 18. If their BMI rose to 20%, or rather, if the BMI rose to 19 to 25, then their mortality rate rose by 20%. Right? So let me say that again. BMI of 18 had the lowest mortality rates in women. If their BMI rose to the range of 19 to 25, then mortality rates raised by 20% in those women. And then if their BMI went from 26 to 28 in that range, their mortality rates were 60% higher. And then for women with a BMI of 28 or higher, their mortality rate was over 100% higher than women who have a BMI of 18. Right? So for women, the amount of fat that they carry is directly proportional to their mortality rate. Okay. Number 4, explain why the recommended daily allowances are not an effective guide for the amount of nutrients you should be ingesting. The idea here is that the recommended daily allowance, the way that they came up with that is they basically studied disease and malnutrition, and they tested people at what level did they get sick at, right? So either from having too much of a nutrient or not having enough, and so they tried to figure out at what levels did someone get sick from not having enough of something, and so the recommended daily allowance is essentially the minimum that you can take and not get sick from it. It is not a number that would be able to guide you into how much you should be taking for optimal health. It is the minimum that you could take to avoid getting sick. But that's a different number than if you're trying to figure out how much of a nutrient you should take for optimum health. Right? Number 5, in what way is the location of an individual's fat determinative for disease? The idea is that if the fat is located around your midsection, it gives a much higher potential for heart disease and or diabetes. Right? 6, explain in your own words the process for starting the caloric-restricted diet. So I'm going to leave you to do this one, but basically what I'm wanting is, if I'm starting from scratch, what are my first steps? What were the first 2 or 3 things I need to do to get myself started in the process of having a calorically restricted diet? Right? Number 7, explain the difference between average lifespan and maximum lifespan. Average lifespan is essentially what they do is they look at what age are half of all the people that were born in that year dead, right? So if you're born in 1950, at what age did half of the people who were born in 1950 with you die, right? So if by the time you guys that are born in 1950 reach 70 years old, if half of those people that were born that year are already dead, then that's the average lifespan for your generation, right? And so average lifespan really is just it doesn't have anything to do with your maximum lifespan, right? So the basic idea is if you didn't have any kind of disease, you would still probably die around 100 from old age. So maximum lifespan tells how long you could live. Average lifespan is really about disease and you know at what rate do people start dying from disease. So as our medical treatments get better, our average lifespan increases. That just means that more people are able to deal with disease and they're getting closer to that age of 100 more consistently, and so our average lifespan is going up, but nothing has changed about maximum lifespan, right? So average lifespan is how long people are living on average. Maximum lifespan is what is our potential if we were able to avoid disease, right? Okay. Number 8, in your own words, describe the types of food that should make up a calorically restricted diet. I'm going to give you this one as well. I gave you 2 videos on food choice, so I want you to go back in there and give me a few examples. Give me a kind of a comprehensive look at, you don't have to give me everything, but I want the categories at least of the types of food that you should be focusing on. Number 9, what role does supplementation play in a healthy diet? So I want you to do something to the effect that supplementation helps, but it can't replace eating well, right? So supplementation often is misguided because maybe they've narrowed in on the wrong ingredient within a type of food. So if they know that everybody who eats tomatoes is healthy and has good heart conditions, maybe they've zeroed in on the wrong chemical within the tomato that's responsible for that, right? So they know that the tomato is what's causing it, but they don't know what chemical in the tomato is causing it often, right? So the idea is that supplementation, there's a few supplements that have been widely tested and widely studied, and those you really need to have in your diet. But then there's some that are just kind of side things that may or may not be right. So supplementation is an additive that could help with lifespan and help fight disease, but it can't replace eating well, because a lot of times what they think they've discovered as far as the ingredient that's the key to a health in a particular food could be wrong. I read a book not too long ago about supplementation, and in it the guy was saying that the stuff he had written about years earlier nobody was even talking about anymore, which meant they were mistaken on a lot of those things, and so supplementation is something you want to do. There's several nutrients and vitamins that are clearly important that you want to supplement with, but at the same time you need to be cautious because there is a lot of marketing going on in the supplementation industry that could oversell the benefits of some of their products, right? Okay, number 10, list and describe 4 supplements reviewed in class. So this one I'm going to leave you to do on your own, but there's a variety there. I went through quite a few in that supplementation video. Basically, I'm wanting a supplement and a brief statement about why it's important. Right? Number 11, what is the difference between the caloric restriction diet and the anti-inflammatory diet? Well, essentially, there's not much of a difference, right? The only difference is the path that they studied to arrive at these foods, but the foods that they're going over are essentially the same. It's just the path that they studied to get there, but the diet itself is essentially the same. 12. List the 4 types of good carbs discussed in class. Right? So that was starches, green veggies, other veggies, and fruit. Okay. List the 4 types of carbs to avoid. That's refined flour, sugars, store-bought fruit juice, and white rice. Okay. What is a resistant starch? Resistant starch is a starch that breaks down more slowly, essentially. Right? And so the benefit of that is that it doesn't release all of its sugar into your bloodstream. It definitely doesn't spike the sugar in your bloodstream. And because it breaks down slow, it gives you a more consistent long-term energy level, and it helps to keep you full without needing to eat again, right? So it helps keep your overall caloric intake down. Number 15, what is the best way to ensure that you have a high level of green vegetables in your diet? So this was kind of the trick that we talked about making sure that you supplement 1 meal a day as a nice, big, healthy salad. Right? By doing that, you'll make sure that you get your level of greens in that you need, because you need a high level of those. Why is the glycemic index not a reliable index to use? Oh, and let me throw in one other thing just while I'm thinking about it on number 15 about the salad. The reason that a salad is important is because in these green vegetables, some of the chemicals that are beneficial are heat sensitive, right? Meaning some of these green vegetables, when you cook them, some of the beneficial parts of them disappear, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to eat all of your green vegetables raw, like in salad form, but it's good to do that as a balance, because if the only thing you do is eat green vegetables that have been cooked, microwaved, cooked on the stove, whatever, heated up in some form, parts of them that are beneficial will be damaged, right? And so it's okay to have some that you cook, but you have to balance that with some, like in a salad form, where they haven't been heated up, and so they still maintain all of the balance of their nutrients. All right. 16. Why is the glycemic index not a reliable index to use? Well, essentially, I want something here that has to do with the fact that it was based on 50-gram serving sizes, and not all foods will require a 50-gram serving size, and so the effect that it's saying that that bananas, for instance, have on your bloodstream is true, but it's in a much higher dosage than what most people would eat. It's several bananas to get to that level, right? So the glycemic load was much more reliable. 17. What was the effect on body weight for individuals who exercised while on a calorically restricted diet? So they put 2 groups together. Both of them they cut down to 1,300 calories. One group was exercising, one group was not. The group that was exercising lost the same amount of weight as the other group, but they didn't lose any muscle mass, right? So all they lost was just strictly fat. And number 18, what is the benefit of using a nutritional app to help you with the caloric restriction diet? I want something to the effect that it helps you to monitor your current caloric intake, and it helps to keep you on track while you're trying to do the diet, because there are some surprises out there with food. And so by recording it with an app, it really helps you to stay on top of things, because some stuff that you might have thought was healthy and good ends up being a lot more calories than you thought. Going out to eat sometimes blows your whole diet, and you might not have even thought that. And so by having an app there that's going to record or research the calories for you, really helps you to be accurate in your diet. Okay? Alright, so that's it. Study this and you should have no trouble on your final.